This is what I do to grow blueberries in the desert. Number one is plant it with a good microclimate. So here it has some southern sun protection. It gets morning sun and a little bit of afternoon sun, but it's protected during the hottest parts of the day. Currently it's flowering, as you can see here and here, but it's also ripening some fruit right now. You can see which flowers were successfully pollinated and which were not. Oh my gosh, by the way, look at all of these. It's gonna look so whimsical once all of these start flowering like this. It reminds me of Tangled for some reason. First thing I took into account was the location of my blueberry plant. It does okay with high temps. The only thing is that if you have it in direct sun, it's gonna scorch. So in this location, it gets morning sun coming from over here, but during the hottest parts of the day it's shaded because it's up against the north side of the house, which means that it's north facing, so it's not getting any direct sunlight coming this way. And in the evening, right before the sun goes down, it gets some filtered light coming this way. During the summer, our sun is very intense, so even though it's a little bit shaded, the light that's filtering through is still enough, because even though some plants say they might require full sun, a lot of the time that doesn't apply to our sun here in the desert, because our sun is on a whole other level of intensity. So this little bush is getting enough sunlight. Without getting scorched all day long. Aside from the location, you want to think about what variety you're planting. This is a sunshine blueberry. It's a very low chill variety, which means that it'll have enough chill hours to be able to fruit properly and at the right time. It's also considered self-fruitful, which means that it doesn't need another blueberry bush to cross-pollinate, because some varieties require cross-pollination and won't set fruit unless they have a compatible variety to cross-pollinate with. You don't have that issue with this one, but it would still set a bit more fruit if I had a second variety to cross-pollinate with. And I might add another one sometime in the future. But for now, it seems to be doing pretty good, especially for its age. Here in the low desert, our soil is very alkaline. Blueberries do not thrive in alkaline soil. They love acidic soil. Now, the sunshine blueberry, some say, doesn't require soil that is as acidic, but with other varieties, the more acidic the soil, the better they'll thrive. So keep that in mind. If you live here in the desert, you don't want to plant it in the ground, because if you plant it in the ground, that blueberry bush is going to struggle just to stay alive. On top of not liking alkaline soil, our water here is very salty. If you give it shallow waterings and you don't see the water running out the bottom, which you can start to see some buildup right here, what'll happen is a lot of that salt will start to build up in there, and the leaves will start to turn brown on the edges because of the salt burn. That's something that I was doing when I first planted it. I was giving it shallow watering every other day, and while it was still alive, it wasn't thriving, it wasn't filling out, and a lot of the leaves looked like this. The new ones look beautiful. Look at that, no salt burn on the edges. The moment I start to notice salt burn, I immediately know I need to water more thoroughly. I grow most things in pots, and I always let the water run out, which means that a lot of those nutrients are also getting washed away. Therefore, I need to feed these plants a bit more than I would with something that's planted in ground. For blueberries, the first thing I do is apply some soil acidifier. This is from Job's Organics. There's also one from Espoma, I believe. On the back, it tells you the instructions, but you want to apply it about every 4 to 6 weeks. So I apply it once a month. This little bush is pretty established, and here it says you need 1.5 cups per foot of plant spread. This isn't quite 3 feet, but it's close enough. In my case, I would do about 4.5 cups of this soil acidifier. But if you've been watching my videos, you know I never measure anything. So instead, I just eyeball about 4.5 cups. So let's do it. I mean, I have a measuring cup right here, and I could just measure it out, but then what's the fun in that? In the past, I used to create a lot more work for myself. I would remove the mulch, amend the soil, add the mulch back in, and it was just way too tedious. So now I just add it on top and mix it in. Just like that. That looks pretty good. Next, because this plant is fruiting, it's using a lot of its energy to try and ripen those fruits, to try and bloom and create more fruits. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed it with some plant tone. You can also use berry tone if you have any. I don't have any on hand right now, but plant tone works pretty good as well. I also happen to eyeball this, but maybe about 2 cups. And then we're gonna mix it in again. I already have my drip line set up, but because I'm amending the soil right now, I'm manually going to water it in until water runs out the bottom. If you need to, pause, let the water start draining out, and then continue. This is exactly what you want. You want that water to run at the bottom of the pot. That way we don't have any buildup, and this little blueberry bush is good to go. Yes, a lot of the nutrients will get washed out in the process, so it definitely requires dedication to grow fruiting plants outside in the desert in pots because you constantly have to feed them, but that's how I get this blueberry bush to look the way it does. Lastly, aside from spreading some slow release organic fertilizer once a month, I also go in with fish fertilizer once a month. Because that fertilizer is water soluble, these plants are immediately able to take it up, and in the summer I feel like that helps them a lot because they're already struggling with the heat. It's really intense. The sun is not their friend at that point. Even though they need it, sometimes it's a little too much, and that fish fertilizer helps to keep them going, especially because I water them a lot more during the summer. Currently the temps are still warm where I live, but they're significantly cooler than they are in the summer, so this plant is looking really great so far, and I hope to keep it that way.